If you've been watching the news recently, then you may have seen that Japan is changing. This is a result of two critical issues. Or I guess it really could just be boiled down to one. Immigration. Japan is an aging society. And what that means is that the Japanese population, because of how developed the country is, people are having less children. And as a result of that, the population is declining. And the average age of people is getting older and older. And so they've been accepting in more immigrants over the last couple of years. And in fact, as of September 2025, there are the most number of immigrants living in Japan than ever before. Now, this figure is still only about 3.8 million or so. And as a result, it's only about 1.5 to 2% of the Japanese population. So in the grand scheme of things, not very big, but it's not the raw numbers that's causing the problem. It's the perception of change that's causing the issue. So this brings us to the topic of the video today. In this video, we're going to be talking about the business manager visa, what's going to be happening and when, so that way you can stay apprised of the current situation. And then we're going to be talking about some other ways that you might be able to come into Japan and start your business. So starting off with the business manager visa. As of early last month, August 2025, the business manager visa will be increasing in their capital requirements for foreigners to be able to get a visa. On top of that, it will no longer be a choice of hiring two Japanese personnel versus having 5 million in capital requirements. You're actually going to be required to have both. There's only going to be one way for you to be able to be sponsored under the business manager visa. Now, they're increasing the capital requirements from 5 million to 30 million. Now, the reason why the Immigration Bureau is pushing for this increase in capital requirement is because they believe that there's a large number of paper companies or companies set up that actually don't perform any sort of business. They only exist on paper, set up by Chinese nationals in order to enter the country legally. Now, whether or not this is true or not isn't something for me or you to determine. It's just the perception and potentially what the Japanese government is policing on currently in order to change the system and make it harder for Chinese people to come in and own property and buy up land in Japan. This is particularly getting heightened amongst growing tensions between China and Japan as China's navy continues to burgeon outwards and try to project power within the Japanese Sea or the East China Sea. The new changes for the business manager visa will require you to have 30 million Japanese yen in a bank account and hire one Japanese person or permanent resident full-time. They can't be a contract employee, they have to be a full-time employee. These changes are going to be put into effect as of the end of this year or early next year, 2026. So if you've been thinking about establishing a business in Japan and want to get that 1 year business manager visa secured, then you should definitely move forward as quickly as possible. And some of the best ways that you can do that is I'll be linking some resources, some paid, free, and everything in between resources on the description of this video. So please check those out. There's a number of different firms that can help you to establish the business quickly. There are some online new startup companies that are developing technology to enable you to apply, relatively fast, like do the paperwork and everything for you. And then, there's a couple of free resources that kind of enable you to do it yourself. Though I will say that, without native level Japanese abilities, you will need at least that, right, to be able to submit these applications and have them get accepted with a reasonable amount of success. So now that we've discussed the business manager visa, you now know the new requirements and when it's likely to be rolled out. Again, the end of 2025, beginning of 2026. What does that mean for, people who are looking to come to Japan, without this capital? And can you realistically start up a business in Japan now without it? So there's been a lot of new buzz in and around the startup manager visa or the startup visa. And now I will say that the startup visa has become more alluring in light of the new requirements of the business manager visa. It still isn't a one-stop shop for everything that you need to be able to get into Japan. It's not the golden ticket that it necessarily seems like it is. Now, more and more efforts are being made to make the startup visa more viable for startup founders in Japan, but the facts of the matter are that when you apply for the visa, you're going to need to have 5 million yen in a bank account. The reason why this is they need to be able to see that you're able to support yourself full time while you're here setting up a business. So not only does it have the same capital requirements as the former business manager visa, but it also only comes with a 6-month visa. So there's a lot of hype in and around the 2 years for the startup manager or the startup visa, but that's simply not the case. When you apply for the visa, you'll get a 6-month visa that'll enable you to stay, establish a business entity, conduct business, open up a business bank account, and find permanent housing here. If it takes you longer than 6 months to be able to secure these assets, which in some instances it very well might, getting a business bank account is actually quite a difficult thing to do with a brand new business here in Japan, certainly. Then you're able to go through and apply for an additional 6-month extension for the visa. What this means is that you'll only have 6 months when you come into the country initially, and then you'll have to be very smart about the way that you're going about your business activities while you're here. And you'll have to have enough money to support yourself during the 6 months and potentially a year while you're getting yourself set up. There's been a lot of news and hype around there being 2 years for the startup visa. But again, that's not the case. You get 6 months upon the initial application. You get an additional 6 months allotted to you if you get approved at the point in time that you need an additional 6 months after the first 6-month period is allotted. And then from there, you have to apply for a separate special activities visa, right? So it's not all just a one-stop shop. You don't just get to apply for the startup visa, get 2 years in the country, and you're set. There's a ton of additional bureaucracy and activities that will go into this visa. All the while, you need to be able to ensure that you can, A, afford opening up a business in Japan, which will cost you about $1,200. B, you need to be able to demonstrate that you have enough capital in a bank account that enables you to continue to live here. C, if you want to be able to open up a business bank account, then you'll need a minimum of 1 million yen in the business or in a personal Japanese bank account while you're here setting up the business. The reason why is because Japanese businesses are quite traditional, and the minimum threshold for them to be able to open up a bank account with a new business entity, typically using one of the more progressive banks like SBI, Net Bank Online, is 1 million yen. If you have anything less than that, then they don't view you as a viable business. So the capital requirements on this startup visa are still quite extensive. You will need to have 5 million at the beginning of the application. You'll likely need to be able to prove that you're able to continue to afford living here when you go through to renew the application. And by the time that you want to apply for the special activities visa, you will need to have a business entity set up, and you'll need to have a business bank account set up. These two things, the business bank account is likely a gray area. As long as you have a personal bank account set up in Japan, you should be okay to get away with it. But you'll still need to set up that personal bank account. And that takes about 6 months of you living in Japan, and likely will require you to be employed under the business entity, or at least be able to show that you have a business entity here in Japan to be able to set it up to get a personal bank account. It took me personally quite a while to be able to set up a business account, and I was employed by a Japanese firm, was able to have a Japanese manager come in with me to apply for the bank account, and they rejected me twice, regardless of that, okay? So you'll need all of that in order to apply for the special activities visa, and at that point in time, you'll likely have spent anywhere from 12,000 to 24,000 of your 5 million yen, effectively eating into the majority of the capital that you would need to inject into your business in order to sponsor yourself on the special activities visa. And Japanese businesses do not move quickly when it comes to contracting. It'll take anywhere from at the beginning, 3 to 6 months, right? If you're moving very quickly and you have a tight product offering, you could potentially do it in 2 months for a B2B sales process. Now, B2C is entirely different, but if you're coming here for B2C, then I would recommend that potentially start advertising and doing business activities with, an entity, from your home country, because that'll make it a lot easier for you to inject capital into this market after you've succeeded. If you're doing B2B activities, it makes a whole lot more sense to come here, set up on the startup visa, and get started. Just keep in mind that it'll take you anywhere from 3 to 6 months in order to be able to sell your first couple of customers. They need a lot of hand-holding, touch points, and relationship building before anybody's going to be giving you money in any particular capacity. So, that is all to say that if you don't have an appropriate war chest coming into Japan on the startup visa, which, as I said in my last video, is likely more than the $5 million that would be required of you to set up the business manager visa, then you're setting yourself up for failure. My personal recommendation, what I've seen to be, kind of like very, giri-giri, which is like, cutting it close, is roughly 15 million yen that you'll need for the startup visa in order to set yourself up for success. Now, you can join accelerator programs like the Antler program, which enables you to come into Japan for 3 months and potentially sponsors you. They have sorry, they don't sponsor visa, but potentially gives you enough money to start up a business entity here. It's only roughly about 15 million yen or so that they inject into a business entity for you. And as we know, that's not enough for a business manager visa. That would only be enough for you to be able to carry out the startup visa activities. So you'd want to apply for like an accelerator program in the Japanese ecosystem, get accepted, and then go through the startup visa processes and bank on the fact that you might be able to win seed funding or pre-seed funding from these accelerator programs. Keep in mind that not all accelerator programs have capital, inject capital into the business. I personally just went through the Global 500 program here in Tokyo, and it's a non-funding opportunity. It's a Global 500 and JETRO partner up, to offer acceleration for businesses. So what does this mean for startup founders, put simply? And hopefully you've learned, quite a bit from this video, and I've been able to point you in the right direction a little. What this means is that the business manager visa is no longer going to be a viable option long term, right? Without an egregious amount of capital. And in which case, if you have $200,000, just laying around, which is, the current conversion roughly for 30 million yen, you might want to consider other markets where business can move quicker and it isn't going to require you such a high, amount of capital cash, just to get started. In the United States, for example, you can get started without any of that. So if you're an American considering moving to Japan, the Japanese door has just been closed on you when it comes to the business manager visa. And when it comes to the startup visa, again, the whole point of the startup visa is to convert you over to the business manager visa. So what this means is that if within a 2-year time period you're not able to assemble a war chest of 30 million yen, then Japan isn't a viable option anymore. You can get a business entity set up here, you can conduct business here, but you won't be able to live here full time. So how Japan will move forward in, continuing to attract foreign talent and labor in order to address the immigration policy that they're having, and how they'll continue to attempt to innovate in this modern day and age is something that we have yet to see. As of right now, it seems as though the Japanese government, the Japanese people, aren't looking to attract foreign entrepreneurial talent. They're looking to attract laborers, something that the economy is lacking severely. So as a result of this, people like myself and like you who are looking to be entrepreneurs in this space, if we don't have connections here, we haven't gone to university here, and we don't know the Japanese language, then Japan is in effect shutting itself to us. Now, I'm a big proponent of if there's a will, there's a way. And as you guys all know, we're all entrepreneurs here, or potential entrepreneurs. So we'll be able to figure this visa problem out, certainly. And as I continue to find an answer to my own visa circumstance, I'll keep you guys apprised. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.